Tucked among the ferns and towering trees in the lower Blue Mountains lie the relics of a bygone local industry. More than a century ago, this gully was a hive of activity. The boisterous sounds of felling trees, rattling machinery, the hiss of steam and the chatter and yelling of hard-working men. A sawmill carved into the wilderness. Today, only the sounds of trickling water, rustling leaves and songs of birds remain. Rusted metal, brick and stone, and the faint trace of human hands now consumed by the bush. I've been down here several times now, and each time is as fascinating as the last. Here we are at Faulconbridge Sawmill, a forgotten outpost of industry, ambition, and eventual ruin. It all began in 1909 when Henry Joyce, a man with big dreams, started buying land just north of Faulconbridge. Over several years he would acquire more than 500 acres of rugged mountain country. It wasn't easy land to work, but Joyce saw promise in its tall mountain ash, coachwood and turpentine, and the opportunity to build something lasting. By 1913 his dream took shape. On a quiet gully floor beside a tributary of Linden Creek, Joyce built a steam-powered sawmill, one of several that dotted Faulconbridge and Linden. The site buzzed with noise and energy, saw blades shrieking and men shouting over the clatter of logs being cut into shape. Some said the timber was destined for Sydney to be made into fine furniture, but in reality, it became something far less glamorous. Railway sleepers. To move the timber from the valley floor up to the ridge, Joyce engineered an ambitious solution, a 900-metre long, 1-metre gauge cable tramway that dropped steeply from the hilltop to the sawmill below. The rails, hewn from hardwood, were laid across rough bush sleepers and in places propped on timber trestles that spanned the uneven ground. It was previously thought a steam-powered winding engine was located at the top, hauling the loaded carriages up the incline using 1.5-inch cables. Although remnants of brake parts at the bottom suggest the incline drive could have been at the bottom. Who knows? Maybe one day someone will discover evidence of the full setup. There is this rusted old water tank not far from where the top winding engine was meant to be. Whether it was top of the hill or bottom, it was a remarkable feat of bush engineering for its time. The milled sleepers were finally hauled onto waiting horse-drawn carts before being loaded onto a goods train at Faulconbridge Station. This is an old photo taken near one of the old mills, possibly Henry Joyce's operation. The exact layout of the sawmill is hard to determine, given the rough terrain and the scant remains. How the logs were moved through the site is another curious one. But one thing that is known is the mill had an open, barn-like structure, similar to this setup from the same era, much further north on Queensland's Sunshine Coast. Getting the equipment in and the timber out wouldn't have been an easy task. The terrain is unforgiving, to say the least. Steep, rocky and often waterlogged, but still, the mill carried on. Near a rocky overhang in the gully, the heart of the operation was the great iron boiler, 6 feet in diameter and 12 feet long. Sheltered beneath that barn-like structure, the boiler was built into a sandstone firebox. It once thundered with life, siphoning water from the creek to generate steam, powering the saws and machinery that fed the valley's demand. Today, that same boiler stands, surrounded by fragments of the past, heavy carriage wheels, twisted cables, and rail remnants half swallowed by the creek bed. The bushes claimed nearly everything else, but the iron relics remain, a quiet moment to human determination. Joyce's dream, however, was short-lived. The timber proved poor in quality, and the water needed to feed the great boiler was often scarce. The business struggled and debts began to pile up. Within a few years, Joyce was forced to surrender the mill to a man named Augustus Wilson, and later, in 1920, it passed to Charles Snell for £1,600. The mill changed hands again, briefly operated by Hardwoods Limited of Parramatta. For a short time, its top engine was repurposed to cut firewood for a Katoomba fuel merchant. The final echo of industry before silence returned to the valley. After only 14 years of operation, the mill closed for good. The machinery was stripped and sold, but that great boiler, too heavy to move, was left behind. Over time, bushfires took care of the rest, consuming the timber structures and cableway. In 1928, the land was resumed by the government and declared Faulconbridge Park, later absorbed into what we now know as the Blue Mountains National Park. And there it remains, an echo of the early industrial age, slowly reclaimed by the bush. Walk the trail today, a short but rugged 3.7 kilometre return, and you'll find yourself crossing creeks, clambering over rocks, and pushing through thick fern gullies. Then, almost unexpectedly, you'll come upon it, the great cast iron boiler sitting steadfast and silent in the forest. It's a striking reminder of a time when men like Henry Joyce came to the mountains chasing promise, employment, and carving industry into wilderness, only for that same wilderness to take it all back again. Little remains of Joyce's dream, just rusting steel, crumbling sandstone, and the trickling of water through the gully. But if you stand quietly among the ferns and listen, you can almost hear the echo of machinery and men at work, a fleeting reminder that even here, deep in the bush, human ambition once challenged the mountain, and the mountain, in time, took everything back.